Hello, this is Dell, and welcome to What You Need to Know About Home Studios for Social Media. Now, in this episode, we lay the groundwork of audio piping, of how we connect various products and programs together on a Windows-based system using OBS and some other programs. Now, when I first started doing audio, it was the most aggravating feature of OBS, because I looked all over the YouTube and other sources I could find to try to find something that would help explain to it. They were not well done. And that's not a criticism to the effort of the people before me, but it's just not well explained. And you can go on to the OBS side and ask a lot of questions, spend a lot of time and hours looking at that to figure out what took me about 3 to 6 months to absolutely master to get this down. Now, if you'll do this, this is going to be 2 parts. The first part is just setting up the piping, the virtual cables, and the second part we'll start to get into the subtleties of how to run your sound and how to avoid a pesky problem that took me a while to figure out. And I have yet to see anybody explain it, but I bet after this video there'll be other videos explaining it. So come back and remember, subscribe on Rumble or YouTube to the channel, and you'll get other tasty little treats like this. Now, before we go too deep into audio, we have to do the basics first, which is set this system up in Windows for the OBS and the piping of information, audio information, digital audio information back and forth. Now, the programs that I use are readily available from a company called VB Audio. I think it's in Germany or somewhere on the continent. And the question is, are you comfortable using this software? Lots of people have, and of course, to make this work, you need this or something equivalent. This is what I used. Now I go to my internet, type in the label VB-audio. And you may just be able to do VB Audio as 2 words and it come up in your browser depending on your search engine. But here it is. And what we want to do is we want to come over here, and because I'm a Windows, I want to bring this one in. This is the first one. You can test this first to see if you like it before you trust it further to make sure your machine is stable. I take no responsibility if you have machine issues or credit card issues or anything like that. It's out of my control. But I did use this one, this first one, that is the VB cable. This is a free one, won't charge you anything. You can try this. But I used it, and I also downloaded the 2 packages. I think they cost me $5 or $10 a piece. They used to be free with any level of donation. Now I think there's a minimum €5 or something like that. But I downloaded A, B, C, and D to give me some more flexibility. Did them, and we'll meet back in the next section after you have installed at least the free cable, this one right here, because we're going to use it to set up Zoom or your studio link. Now, you may use Skype, but I'm going to use Zoom, and if you duplicate what I've done, it'll make sense to you as we go on with this program. Well, now that we've got part 1 done, which consisted of going to VB Audio, a website which I'm not affiliated with, but I have used them myself, and I've never had any trouble with my credit card account after making the appropriate donation for the 2 packages. I've downloaded the free cable, and the A and B cable set, made a donation, and the C and D cable set, made a donation. It's just easy to do it while you're there. Now that I have those in there and I have installed those, I have them in my system. This part, I want to go out there and I want to grab the control panel and put it in my taskbar for ease and convenience when I need to grab it, and pull the sound function off to the desktop. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, my desktop looks very much like this. You see the little white search bar at the bottom. What we want to do is we want to go down there and start typing. It pulls up a little screen, and we want to type the word control or control panel in there, define our icon. Now from here, what I want to do is I want to right click on the icon, which brings up the sub menu that gives me an opportunity to then pin it to my taskbar, which I did. After that, I go back and click on the control panel, which brings this up. I then want to find the speaker for sound. It's a little icon of a speaker. Yours may look a little different depending on how you have your control panel to default to display to you. But in the detail mode, it gives me my sound. And what I want to do is I want to right click on it and I want to create a shortcut. Windows will then ask me, do I want to put a shortcut onto the desktop because I can't put one here? And I say yes. And that is all we got to do with that. Now we're ready for part 3. Now that we've got parts 1 and 2 done, we should actually have all 5 cables installed, virtual cables installed, and we should have a shortcut on our desktop on one of our panels for sound so we can open it up to do what we need, because we need that later on as we're reconfiguring things real quickly for a particular production or a show. Now I'm going to rename mine, which is going to force me to have to redo my scenes and correct all the inputs, do the pull downs. But when you see the pull downs, they'll now be more helpful to you so that you don't get confused. And that's a learning curve shortener right there. The other thing is, this same company has some virtual mixers, several different virtual products. Now I found that on like the first 3 generations, that whenever I installed them, it messed up the cable mapping and the icons and the things like that on my Windows 10 based machine. So we're going to go ahead and bring that panel up, and let's go ahead and rename them now, because I think it's going to help you in the long run. I'm going to double click. It brings up the panel. Let me slide this to more in the center, and you see we got playback and recording. Each end of this piece of software that we just installed has a name, and they match. And we want to make sure they continue to match. They don't have to match. And part of getting scrambled was it would mess up the assignment in the registry just a tad, at least on my machine. I'm not saying that on everybody's, but we're going to go down here to the gray one, which is the free cable input with no letter, and we're going to pull up, highlight it, right click, then bring up properties because we want to rename it. Now there are different programs you can use for your studio link or your guest link or your remote link, however you want to call it. And you have GoToMeeting and Skype and lots of other products and Google Meets, and we have some new thing that just came on the last update of Windows that shows up in my taskbar down at the bottom. I can't figure out how to get rid of just yet. But I use Zoom. And it's not a particular endorsement for Zoom. I started using Zoom, quite honestly, because I didn't have quite as much lag. It didn't seem to be so demanding. It worked very well. And if I'm just going to do a one-on-one meeting, I can get a free account and they don't charge me for more than one person, which is fine for what I use it for. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this Zoom Cable, and I'm going to put a dash F for the free cable, and I'm going to apply that. Okay, then I'm going to go over to recording, bring that one up, slide down till I see the plain cable with no letter. Do the same thing, right click, highlight, right click, properties. We're going to call this Zoom Cable F. Hit apply. Now, a couple of these others I'm going to use. I actually have all of them in use, but for right now, we'll just use the main ones in a typical setup. I'm going to use the yellow one, or Cable D, properties. We're going to rename that System Cable D. Go immediately, grab the other end of it, repeat that procedure. System Cable D, apply that. I'm going to use the C cable for the video player that we'll use. This is also an open source program that is user supported, called VLC. If you're going to do any in-show video playbacks, this is a good one to use. So I'm going to do the same thing, highlight, properties, change cable C's to VLC space, cable C, apply, okay, recording, get the other end, the green one, properties, VLC, cable C output, hit OK. Alrighty. Now we're going to slide up to cable A. Now cable A is the one I use for the music player. Do my intro and extro music, infill, exfill, however you want to do it, music. You can play audio clips with it. You can play whatever you need to with this player. Odyssey is also an open source user supported program, and I do use it. So I'm going to rename that one. Properties. AUDACITY, Odyssey, cable A, apply. And then go over to the remaining end, which should be the orange one. Come on up. There we go. Let's do the same thing. Rename it. Odyssey, cable A, input. Now I think that's enough for today. In this video, we'll actually show you in the next one how to use this. And I think I'll do the zoom feature first, because we're going to pick up some subtleties on the audio right off the bat with it. So I appreciate you watching. Remember, if this is useful to you, please subscribe either on the YouTube channel or the Rumble channel, so that I know that somebody cares enough to watch these things, that they're being useful. Otherwise, I might get discouraged. So that's where we are. Appreciate you watching. End of the show.